Hello, my name is Wayne O'Connor. In 2005, I had a dream that was prophetic in nature about dark times coming to America. Also within that dream, I had songs. One of the songs actually took place in heaven. The night that this dream occurred was September 16th, 2005. There were actually 3 songs. One took place in heaven, but I couldn't understand the words. When the dream started, I was seeing a sort of backstory. The songs in the dream did not start right away. The dream took place in the future. At the time I wasn't sure, but I thought it could be America. Now, several years later, I feel fairly positive that the dream took place in future America. Dread filled the land. Even within the group inside the dream, all Christians, there was fear. They talked about hearing rumors that people were so afraid that they were killing themselves. Stories of warfare on American soil, death camps, disasters, as well as looters killing neighbors to get their food stores, and unbelievable tales of dark demonic events were prayed about by the gathered Christians. From what I remembered about the dream, most Christians at that time were meeting in tiny groups in houses. All the windows were kept concealed by thick drapes. Windows were also barred. Doors were kept locked. Everyone was in shock as the great American dream had become a nightmare. Some places were worse than others. Places that had always been peaceful with little crime, like where the man in the dream lived, were better than most places, but growing steadily worse. Even though different things reminded the old man in the dream of various Christian songs, which I didn't record, there was one song that they were singing just before the vision, and when he came out of the vision that I recorded, the tune is similar to that of the lyrical phrase, "I will cling to the old rugged cross." In the dream, I was seeing everything through the eyes of that old man. Also, the old man had a habit of seeing or hearing something and comparing it to sections of lyrics from his musical repertoire. He seemed to have spent much of his early life as a nightclub musician, playing everything from period pop music to classic rock and roll. Later, he got saved and then switched course. After that, he played mostly Christian music for churches and private home parties. At times he would remember scenes from his life, and I would see them for a few seconds as part of the dream. The old man, I'll call him Elder, was sitting in a living room with several brothers and sisters. The talk and prayer time had ended. Everyone appeared to be Caucasian. I don't know if they were Americans. Over the years, the feeling that they were Americans has grown stronger. All hands were raised. A few saints were crying as they worshipped the Lord. Elder gritted his teeth because of the severe throbbing in his gnarled, arthritic hands. He was telling the Lord, in the quietness of his heart, that he was tired of living. Someone in the group, I think it was a lady, began singing a song that I didn't recognize. I call it Heavenly Song Number 1. We will serve our Lord Jesus Christ until He calls us home. We are merely sojourners here. Heaven is really our home. We will serve our Lord Jesus Christ by our blood and our love and our testimony. Yes, we will serve our Lord Jesus Christ until He calls us home. Just as the last line of the song closed, suddenly everything disappeared, and the old man was in heaven, surrounded by multitudes of people or angels who were singing to the Lord. You couldn't actually see the people or angels as the light was so bright. Elder saw a ball of lightning and fire in the distant center. Fog or smoke emanated from the fire and lightning, which spread out, covering the heavenly choir. As Elder hung suspended with the people or angels, words and music like peals of thunder and mighty rushing waters surrounded him. He couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand the words either. Strangely, the music did not seem to have a beat, but rather ebbed and flowed. Parts of the music were indescribable, while other sections sounded like waterfalls, or rain or sand falling on different surfaces, or waves rushing along sandy beaches or pummeling granite cliffs, streams rippling with wind chime tinkles across stones and gravel, bird trills, and the drone of insects. Sound was not the only sensorial imagery. Nuances of taste, scent, or touch added their own unique accents. Walking through pines on a snowy day, or along rain-dampened deciduous forest trails in autumn at twilight, tropical breezes, light winds rattling leaves, freshly mown clover or shorn sheep wool, orchard and greenhouse scents, blackberries plucked from a prickly bush followed by the wet, fruity taste of the juice. Cool water lifted in a wooden bucket from a rough, stony desert well, drunk in long, cool draughts, and then splashed over dusty hands. Various sensorial images were threaded in vague ribbons throughout the musical piece. Even though the words seemed incomprehensible, it was obvious that everyone was praising Jesus. I think they were praising him for his creation and the wonder of life. His presence and peace were literally tangible. Just as the old man was about to open his mouth and join the singing, his body began to tingle. "Your work is not finished," said the Lord in the man's native tongue. "When you are finished, I will call you home." As the echoes, both of the Lord's words and the heavenly choir dimmed, so too did the heavenly vision. While the heavens grew faint, the sights and sounds of earth became stronger, until at last the old man reappeared in his chair. The old man, bereft of the Lord's heavenly presence, was overcome with a poignant sense of loss. He remembered and pondered Paul's words. "For to me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. But if I live in the flesh, this to me is fruit of my labor. And what I shall choose I do not know, for I am pressed together by the two, having a desire to depart and be with Christ, which is far better. But to remain in the flesh is more necessary on account of you." Philippians chapter 1, verses 21 through 24. Great love for his brothers and sisters and a new boldness, strength, and assurance flooded Elder. When Elder reappeared in the living room, the saints were still singing Heavenly Song Number 1. A lady pointed at Elder and then compared the glow around the old man with the glow Moses had after being in the presence of the Lord. Another person, I think it was a guy, pointed out with surprise that Elder's hands were no longer knobby or swelled. Elder happily began to share his vision with the gathered saints. As a part of that testimony, he sang Heavenly Song Number 2, which I call Heavenly Song Number 2, Elder Song. "We were gathered in a living room, several Christians with our hands in the air. We were praising Jesus our Lord. Suddenly the earth grew strangely dim, just like in that old hymn. I was no longer there in my chair. I was standing in a heavenly place. Light so bright I couldn't see a thing. Then I heard this otherworldly melody, like mighty rushing waters and peals of distant thunder, notes I cannot duplicate, and it was the strangest thing. Not only could I hear the notes, I could touch and taste and feel them too, and I really couldn't find a beat. That music kinda ebbed and flowed. I don't care if it sounds cliche. Those vocals were out of this world. Didn't understand a word, but I knew who they were praising. They were praising Jesus, Jesus my Lord. That was when his peaceful presence began to overwhelm me more than the otherworldly melody that I can never duplicate. I was just about to open my mouth and sing to him with all of my heart when I felt this fire burning deep inside of me. That's when I heard Jesus speak these words. I know you'd like to stay here, but I have work for you to do. When it's time, I shall surely call you home. Suddenly the heavens grew strangely dim, just the reverse of that old hymn. Then I was no longer there, I was back in my chair. I ached to be with Jesus and hear that heavenly melody, but I also felt peace and love like I've never felt before. It was then that I understood, both in my head and in my heart, the Apostle Paul's words to the Philippians. I've got two longings that are tearing me apart, while I ache to go home with Jesus my Lord. I also crave to stay here and do the work He's called me to. Thanks for listening. If you would like a copy of Songs in the Night from Jesus, it is available in paperback and as an ebook at Amazon.com. Look for Waysigns Along the Journey, number 3, Songs in the Night from Jesus. Written by Wayne O'Connor.